Most sellers lose thousands, not because of bad offers, but because they fold to buyer demands they shouldn't have ever agreed to, okay? You list your house, you get an offer, you're pumped, and then the buyer's agent hits you with a list of requests. Half of them sound insane, but your agent says, just do it or you're going to lose the deal. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. Buyers are testing you every single time. And if you don't know how to push back the right way, you're basically handing them your profit. So stay to the end, because I am exposing the 5 sneakiest buyer demands that drain sellers' wallets. And I'll give you the exact playbook to outsmart every one of them. Let's go. The sneaky demand number 1, I call the hidden cost of as is. Now, this one gets sellers every time because it sounds like a gift that you get this offer. And then the buyer says, we'll take your house as is, no repairs needed. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. No fixing stuff, no hassles. But then the inspection happens because you didn't have a pre-home inspection. And suddenly that as-is offer doesn't feel so clean. This is what happens when you don't do, like I said, a pre-home inspection and have them sign a pre-home inspection addendum. Up on the screen here, I'm showing you a copy of our addendum, basically stating that the buyer is accepting this property knowing all the things wrong that were in the pre-home inspection. And if they do another one, they can see if anything else that they found. But if they didn't find anything new, they can't ask for those things that they already knew about. But if you don't do the inspection ahead of time, these things are going to happen, guys. They're unexpected and adds up. So when I say unexpected, what's the impact of, say, small repairs? Well, I've heard this happen before. Just recently, I took over a listing that didn't sell. They had a home inspection. The buyer walked because they didn't have one ahead of time. But what happens is when the buyer does their inspection, comes back to this list of small stuff, sometimes big stuff, like a loose handrail, the caulking around the bathtub is cracked, and one outlet doesn't have a ground wire. The garage door opener, it's slow. And you're thinking, but you said as is, right? And, the game is they know as is made you feel safe. Maybe you even accepted a lower price. But now they're saying, well, our inspector found safety concerns, or our lender requires these repairs. So protect yourself, not just with a pre-home inspection, but with a strategy that's using this addendum and the wording. And that's why having a real deal agent is so important. Now, listen, I vet realtors all over the United States for you guys. You asked me to find you a realtor, and I can tell you it's very hard, and hardly anybody uses the pre-home inspection religiously for every transaction. And that's why people are losing thousands of dollars. I think you have to really understand this psychological game that goes on. These requests, they start small, like fix the handrail, $50, recaulk the tub, another $50. But here's what happens. You start saying yes to the first small thing, then there's another, and before you know it, you said yes to like 15 items and spend $2,000. And you've wasted 3 weeks. And listen, the buyer knows once you start saying yes, it's hard to say no. Give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And those sellers who agreed to small repairs end up making additional concessions. And it snowballs. So how do you get on top of this? Proactive fixes. First, identify common gotcha items. How do you outsmart these things? Well, you get your own pre-home inspection. Talked about this before you list your house. Costs $300 to $600. It's the best investment you'll make. Don't buy a home warranty. They don't save you money. But a home inspection, spend the money on a home inspection. Then you know what's wrong before they do. And then you can fix it with your contractors the way you want to fix it. So how do you respond? Most offers should have this in there. Because when you say as is, make sure your contract says that the property is in as is condition. Buyer has the right to inspect for informational purposes only and waives the right to request repairs, replacements, or credits based on inspection findings. And if they come back with demands anyway, your response can be, well, you accepted your as-is offer in good faith. The property was disclosed accurately. We had the home inspection, and we're not making any repairs on these things that we had already found already, and we already disclosed them. But if the inspection revealed items that they didn't find in the first inspection, sometimes you have to look at those. Very rarely does that happen. And just tell the buyers, if the inspection revealed, items that you're not comfortable with, we'll release you from the contract, but we're not negotiating. Just go to realdealagent.com. I can help you find a realtor in your area that knows this strategy. Like I said before, they may have found something really significant that we didn't find in the first inspection, something like that, something you didn't know about. But if they're going to give you this 15-item laundry list, just stand your ground. And 90% of the time, the buyer will back down. They've invested time, done the inspection, fallen in love with your house, spent the money. They could be bluffing. Most likely they are. Just call it. That's what I do. Another sneaky demand comes with the appliances, right? The appliance upgrade trap, we're going to call it, okay? That's the sneaky demand number 2. This one makes me want to pull my hair out, okay? I got a lot of hair, all right? So you're selling your house with a refrigerator, stove, and dishwasher. Standard stuff, right? They work. They're not brand new, but they're functional. Then after the inspection, the buyer says, our clients are concerned about the age and condition of the appliances. The refrigerator is 8 years old. The dishwasher doesn't clean as effectively as they like. They're requesting either new appliances or a $5,000 credit. Well, first of all, the refrigerator doesn't go with the sale, just the stove and the dishwasher, the built-in items. But $5,000 for appliances that work perfectly fine? No. And why buyers, they're targeting these specific appliances because they're watching HGTV. They want the brand new stainless steel kitchen, appliances on the kitchen. They're asking for $5,000 off the price. Sounds aggressive. Asking for $5,000 in appliance credits? Somehow that feels more reasonable. They target the appliances, I think, because appliances are expensive to replace. They're visible. You see them every time you walk in the kitchen. And there's kind of a gray area between broken and I just don't like it. A little gray. But the real numbers are that most major appliances, they do last 10 to 15 years. So if your appliances are within these ranges and they're working and they're not defective, they're just not new. It's a big difference. So you have to set the expectations up front to avoid this. So the first way to avoid, the first strategy, you could say, and you put in your listing remarks, be specific. Don't just say includes appliances. Say kitchen includes refrigerator 2017 model, good working condition. Gas range 2019 model, excellent condition. Dishwasher 2016 good working condition. Same thing. All appliances included as is with no warranties. You disclose the ages, describe their condition, and made it crystal clear they're as is. Very key. Another strategy is to take great photos of clean appliances. Make them look well maintained. Buyers are emotional. If your appliances look cookie and hands all over them and sticky, it's not good. But if they look good, they're less likely to target them, okay? Next strategy, if you got an appliance that's genuinely on its last legs, I would replace it before listing it. Basic refrigerator might cost $500 to $800, or just exclude it from the sale entirely. You don't have to sell the house with the refrigerator. So how do you kind of navigate the wear and tear versus defective, right? The normal wear and tear, you don't have to fix. Scratches or minor dents, some discoloration, slight decrease in efficiency, cosmetic wear on handles or knobs, and legitimate defects maybe should address. The appliance doesn't turn on. That's going to come up in inspection. You got to fix that. Refrigerator doesn't keep food cold. I would disclose that. Dishwasher leaks water. You can't sell a house with a dishwasher that leaks. The oven temperature is slightly, significantly off. If it performs its basic function, it's not defective. So how do you negotiate this when you have these problems? So when you get an appliance demand, you can, 1, documentation defense. All appliances are in good working order. We're not providing credits for functioning appliances. Or option 2, home warranty. Give them a home warranty. Rather than replace functional appliances, we'll provide you with a 1-year home warranty. It costs about $500 to $600 that covers repairs or replacement if they fail. I don't like home warranties, but it could be a good spend for you for $600 to avoid a $5,000 demand. But I wouldn't even get there. Don't even get there. Okay, if you have a real good realtor, this will not happen to you. But if you're not, let me hire you a realtor, this could happen for you, okay? The third thing you can do is give them a credit. So we will provide you a $400 credit towards a dishwasher as we acknowledge it's older. All other appliances remain as is, something like that. But don't give them a blank check, guys. Address one specific concern with a specific response. You got it? Sneaky demand number 3. I call it the backyard blitz. This one is so subjective and easy for buyers to manipulate. Your house shows beautifully, say. Everything works. Then after the inspection, the realtor comes back with, our clients are concerned about the exterior. The landscaping needs work. The fence is weathered. The deck needs staining. And they're requesting an $8,000 credit. $8,000 for mulch and a deck stain? That's why I have my book, my Model Home Mindset book. clean everything, make it look real nice, so don't come back with these silly requests. Sometimes buyers, they leverage curb appeal. They use exterior aesthetics as a negotiating weapon because it's highly visible and emotional. It's subjective. Needs work can mean anything, right? They can throw out big, scary numbers. And they're banking on you not knowing what things actually cost. They say $8,000. They throw out a number. And you're like, huh? So maybe you agree. But if you had a real deal realtor, this would not happen to you. On my watch, stuff like this doesn't happen. But there is a reality here. Landscaping costs $500 to $1,500. Deck staining, $500,000 maybe. Fence staining, $750, $2,000. Driveway filling, maybe $100, $500, something like that. Even adding up all of that I just talked about is maybe $3,000, $5,000 max, not $8,000. So what are some good exterior solutions? I call this my $500 curb appeal makeover. All right, hear me out here. You can make your exterior look amazing for less than you spend on groceries. How you can do that? Power wash, power wash, power wash. Rent a power washer. It's like $40, $50 a day. Or hire somebody. This makes your house look 10 times newer, especially when you hit all the windows and the cobwebs. Second thing you can do is fresh mulch. You take $30 to $50, covers most of your front yard. And what I do is I use fake flowers, especially when it's not time of the year, or you can plant those flowers in there to make it look nice. Third thing, just edge everything. $30 edger recreates sharp, clean lines. 4, you can trim and prune. Just get trimmer one afternoon with $50 of tools. It'll work. Or just add some color, like I talked about. Flowers, very important. Total cost, whatever it would be, but not $8,000. So there are some things you can do to make your exterior look nice right before you list your house. And as you know, what I do is I take pictures of your house, if you're my client, the season before. We make it look real nice. We take pictures because then we have great exterior photos at all times. That is a pearl, guys. And it is in my Home Selling Sharks book. So there is a time where you can push back. There could be some genuine structural concerns, such as foundation cracks wider than 1/4 inch, or roof damage with missing shingles, or severe wood rot on structural elements, or drainage issues causing water pooler. These are more structural stuff that may need to be fixed. I usually get all that handled before I start showing my listings. That's why I get into people's houses a year or two in advance, so there's nothing wrong with the house. It's all cleared up. Some cosmetic issues, you can push back and say, well, the landscaping isn't my style. Well, who cares? The fence is weathered but structurally sound. The deck needs staining. It's not rotted. It's just fading. But the driveway has minor cracks. If you don't fix these things, these are things that you could say, well, it's just minor, because it doesn't affect safety or structure. It's minor. If it's aesthetics, it's not the seller's problem. Buyer, get with the program. So how do you respond to structural things? You just say, well, we've obtained contractor quotes for legitimate structural issues. You list them out and you tell them ahead of time. And you tell them things you may have fixed or didn't fix. And then the cosmetic items are personal preference and already reflected in the price. Just say, we'll address specific structural issue at this amount, but not landscaping preferences. Or you could say, response 2 could be a reasonable compromise. We'll provide you a credit of $750 credit towards exterior improvements of your choosing. I wouldn't do that, but you could do that. Or you could just say hard no. The property's exterior is in good condition and appropriately priced. We're not providing credits for personal taste. And if a buyer demands exterior work because they want the house to look a certain way, that's their renovation project, and it's not your problem. And as you know, if you hire a real deal agent, having a real deal agent who knows their stuff will fight for you. Finding a person like me out there is very hard. That's why I created my agent referral program, realdealagent.com. You get the link below, link in description. I can connect you with a vetted, experienced agent in your area who knows how to handle these situations. It's not easy to find. Matter of fact, I might not be able to find somebody, so that means that I stay more involved during the transaction with them to help along. But if I can find somebody, that people know their game, they know tactics, and they won't let buyers push you around. Let me help you find your realtor a year or two in advance. It does make a difference. All right, let's get back to these sneaky demands. Well, we're on number 4, and I call it the future-proofing ploy. Buyers can get really creative with this one. They're kind of mid-deal, inspections done, and you get a note saying, Our inspector noted that the HVAC is 12 years old. While functioning, the average lifespan is 15 to 20 years old, so a replacement will likely be needed soon. Or we're requesting a $7,000 credit towards future replacement. Again, you can handle this ahead of time, but this might happen to you because you didn't do a pre-home inspection. Or they could say, the water heater is 9 years old and nearing end of life. We're requesting a replacement of $1,500 when we want a credit. So they're demanding you to pay for things that might need replacement in the future based on what they might want to do, okay? Or buyers can demand upgrades. One tactic I know of is they call it the lifespan scare. They cite average lifespan and claim your system is nearing end of life. So you should pay for eventual replacement, but average means half the systems last longer. Your 12-year-old HVAC could run another 8 to 10 years. Another tactic is more of a speculation type thing. They tell you their future plans, solar panel, EV charger, smart home, and claim your systems won't support them. So you should upgrade. I haven't heard this one, but you never know. But that's their plans, their upgrades. Why is that the seller's responsibility? I don't know. Another tactic that they use is fear mongering. They use language like inspector expressed concern or potential future failure to make functioning systems sound like they're time bombs, okay? So systems, like I said earlier, they have lifespans. The HVAC, 15 to 20 years. Many will run 20 to 25 if you maintain them well. And water heaters, 8 to 12, but if it's a tank or 15 to 20, I believe on the tankless, much longer than what the inspector usually says. Electrical panels, like 25 to 40 years, a long time. Roof can be 20 to 25 years. Plumbing can be decades, but you have to maintain them. When buyer demands money for future replacement of something function properly, that's speculation. It's not a legitimate request. So how do you defend against future-proofing demands? One, just get out your service records. That's why I always say in every video, get a book together, gather all your invoices. As you go along, if you're 4 or 5 years out, keep keeping your invoices. Get your service records, gather them, your receipts, the water heater maintenance, electrical work permits, roof inspections, plumbing invoices. Get them all together in a book. And when you show 10 years of HVAC service records, they claim it's about to fail, loses credibility, okay? Because that's what they're going to go after. And if you have all this paperwork, they will not. That's why every one of my sellers puts together a book where we get all their information up front and we put a little thing together for them in their agent hub so buyers can read that. They feel more comfortable. Or, you can have a professional come out and assess it. If you think your system is failing or it's at the end of its useful life, you can get your own expert to come in, maybe spend $100 to $300 to evaluate it and provide a written report. Now you have a licensed professional saying it's in good working order with 5 to 10 years remaining. That is good to do. We do that a lot. And if there's some kind of code issue, code compliance, you want to get documentation showing everything does meet code and it's acceptable. You don't have to upgrade just because the buyer wants to. Now, people say, what about the home warranty solution? Instead of giving credits, get a home warranty. I'm not big on home warranty and going to that. I don't like using that out there. I'd rather do the home inspection and fix things because the home warranty, I think, is a scam in a sense because even though the buyer gets this home warranty, they still have to pay $60 even for them to come out and they don't cover everything. So I wouldn't lead with home warranty. So the most important thing to do is say that all systems are functioning properly within expected lifespans. Attach all your service records and say you're not providing credits for properly functioning systems based on speculation. That's what we do. That's why we get the pre-home inspection. We say there, we're not fixing any of these things. I wouldn't give a home warranty. I like fixing appliances or getting new appliances if they look really old. That's something I would do, something to spend money on. And if they want to upgrade and install an EV charger, have like a smart home, just let them know that's on them. That's your plans. As a home seller, you're responsible for selling a home with functioning systems. You're not responsible for funding future renovation dreams. Okay, so that's not what you're there for. The next sneaky demand is when they ask you for closing costs. After you have the inspection, you dealt with the repairs, and you're a week away from closing, you're packed, you're coordinated movers, maybe bought your next house, then the agent calls and the buyer's lender requires them to bring more cash to closing than expected. That's not your problem. And then they start asking you for money to contribute money towards it. Give them $6,000 towards closing costs so the deal doesn't fall apart right before closing. Now, I haven't seen this with my deals, but I have heard it out there, many people, because they don't know how to negotiate from the very beginning. Because out of nowhere, a few days before closing, this could happen. They demand closing costs. So the closing costs will go towards the buyer's loan fees, appraisal, title insurance, attorney's fees, recording fees. I just tell them those companies can lower their fees if they need money. Why should the seller give them a credit? Basically, they're counting on you being so invested that you can't walk away. Or the other thing that happens last minute is the appraisal gap, where the house doesn't appraise and the buyer wants you to make the difference between the appraised amount and what the sale price was. Well, we nipped that in the butt from the first go around. I never let the seller sign anything without some type of appraisal agreement that the buyer will pay the difference, or the buyer and seller will come up with something together. It's not just the seller's responsibility. Before you sign an agreement of sale, make sure you have that there. And you do need to understand your market. If you're in a seller's market, you have leverage. If you're in a balanced market, maybe you might need to budge a little bit. But if you're in a buyer's market, you might not find another buyer. So sometimes you're caught, but you wouldn't get caught from the very beginning if you had a real deal agent. So make sure I help you find somebody that's going to work hard for you. And know what market you're in. Just don't agree to a number because they asked. Try to hold firm. All right, you made it through all 5 sneaky buyer demands. The big takeaway: knowledge is your best defense. Every one of these buyer tactics only works if you don't see it coming. But now you do. You know the psychology, the strategies, and how to push back with confidence. But here's the one thing: protecting yourself doesn't stop with buyers. There's another trap that costs homeowners even more money, and it's hiding in plain sight. So before you hire an agent, you need to watch this next video. Homeowners are losing thousands because of this agent trick. In it, I'll show you how the nicest agent in the room could secretly be the most expensive mistake you'll ever make. Go check this out and keep stacking your advantage. Knowledge isn't just power, it is profit.